going live.
Tony Caravan.
Says you're live.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't. Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
That's right.
Let's get this show on the road.
That's right. Rock Flux. That's the channel, YouTube channel. Tony Caravan here. Some may say you should have taken a sip out of that thing before you went live. I don't know if you're noticing the big sound, a bigger sound. I'm working on something. It may sound like a tinny thing in the background, you know, but I don't understand why that would be. Okay. It's currently 5:21 a.m. in the former United States. And it's hot here today. I had the air conditioner on, but it's too much. It's bad enough I have like kind of a semi-hum in my ear due to this bigger sound that I'm trying to work on. I'm also wearing the "You don't know what you don't know" shirt, which totally screwed up this cheap chair I have. No one's bought any product yet. What's your problem? Get the shirt. Get the shirt. I'm going to do bad things to you, to you, to you. Now, I don't know if you're noticing the sound at all. You know? But even though I had chat set up today, and I'm pretty sure I did. Let's see here. I don't know if you can go back onto this thing. Tags. Comments. They've decided that there shall be no chat. Yeah. Oh, no, now it popped in for some reason. I don't know. Interesting. So, good morning. Oh, just had some people on. Hi, I'm Tony Caravan, and you're not. Let's get this thing going on in the background here. Let's see. A little bit of light. I used to have a fan in here. It was one of those battery-operated fans. And the thing was, I ended up using it in my outdoor greenhouse. So, hooked it up to a solar panel since it was, you know, DC powered. And that didn't work. It was like, and one day I smelt it like it was like ready. I figured I burnt the motor out. So I bought a step down transformer. I told you I was into electronic type of stuff. And knocked it down. And it seems to have been working so far, knock on wood. But in here, this is just a flimsy t-shirt, more or less. I don't know. I mean, it's not that flimsy. It's available on TonyCaravanLive.com. If I take the headphones off, I can still hear myself in the room. What I'm trying to do is create a big sound with the Boss Jocks. Yesterday, I decided to bring in the amplifier I had in the garage. Anyway, for those of you who are like confused right now.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah, this is my show, and I usually start it out with like catching people up on what we talked about in the past and stuff. And yesterday or the day before, I mentioned I have this guitar amplifier out in the garage. It's been out there for about 3 or 4 years. It's got all kinds of effects on it. And I thought maybe I could hook it into my, and it's a Behringer or something, whatever that name is. It's the same as my mixer, coincidentally. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll, because it had a headphone out jack in it, and there was a CD in. Like that's where I might have maybe I have to revisit this. Actually, now that I think of it, I should have used the CD in instead of the main input in. That might have been my downfall. Be that as it may, I tried hooking it up yesterday in through the mixer FX, but it's got like this FX send, but it doesn't like. But then it's got some other kind of thing that's an input. So despite all my so-called alleged electronic knowledge, I wasn't able to get reverb, is what I was looking for. So what I did today, I thought about this last night as I was going to sleep. I said, well, I've got an amplifier on my, main ginormous computer system. What if I go from the output, the main out of my mixer, because I'm basically not using that because I'm going into the computer for where the sound you hear is like kind of the tape out. But what if I go to the main out, which normally would go into the amplifier, into my mini amplifier that I use, and therefore creating, in other words, this sound is in the room. It's not just in my ears. Okay. And there'd be a certain amount of sound from this microphone to create this depth. And so I would get this bigger sound. Now I'll give you an example. Let's see if you could notice this. Let's see if you could notice this sound getting like flatter or whatever. And then I could take it back up and you see this, the vehicle just went by. But it's almost like I'm getting there's like a ring as opposed to necessarily a fuller sound. So I'm experimenting with this. And just following up with that, the other day I was talking about the tube in YouTube. There's a GE electronic tube. And I'll tell you, in the days of this analog, there would be no problem. GE electronic tube. And you could store them on the shelf like that. I guess that once had the number of the tube. And of course, one of the other companies that was big in those days, RCA. Well, further away over here. That's an RCA tube. Service parts. Replace with genuine RCA service parts. Radio. That's radio days, baby. Tube. Electronic tube. The agency working for YouTube has got a problem. You gotta re-identify yourselves. Now they just use that symbol and studio on this thing, but it's still in the shape of the old rounded TV. So I guess they're trying to transition. Anyway, that's what's going on with that, Anyway.
Nothing for you.
As usual, this is one of those. I call this in fact, let's look at it just to get everything correct. It's Tony Caravan Live 6/9/21. Feel the flow of consciousness. And it is a flow of consciousness show. That's better. I had one of these. I used one of those services yesterday to order some junk because I was watching some junk food. I mean, not totally junk food, but some more soft drinks, caffeinated soft drinks, carbonated soft drinks, and junk. I was watching some CW thing. What show was it? It was on CW. I was watching a couple of them in a row. The peop the what's it called? The time people that do that. Oh, what is it called? New window. Hope this doesn't mess up things. CW time travel show. Some other person was looking for it. What is the show where they travel back in time? No. Now, oddly enough, the title of this is Continuum, and that's the one they put on. Continuum, by the way, was a good show, but I thought that was on. I could have sworn that was on Sci-Fi Channel. CW shows. I always like to make sure. Come on. That's probably affecting the image of this. DC Legends of Tomorrow. I apologize if that somehow slowed down my voice and the scene. So the description, basically, as I say, this way to the beach. The big sound from the boss jocks. Actually, a feeble attempt, but it's better than nothing. Posers, influences, it should say influencers, and YouTube millionaires need not watch. I guess I'm just going to say selfie posers. Well, no, posers. Yeah, selfie posers. But there are other kind of posers. Selfie / posers. Influencers and YouTube millionaires need not watch. 8 billion people on this planet are being ruled by several thousand humanoids comprising an international crime syndicate directing the corporatocracies. Punk Rock 21. Brutally honest. And that's the description of this show. Feel the flow of consciousness. We're 13 minutes and 15 seconds into the show on June 8th, the calendar year 2021. If you're buried under 2 miles of ice in one of those government survival centers and you have found this content because you've run out of other things to watch on those stored memory banks, this is what happened. This is why you're underground. This is why you're buried in ice and stuck in that place. And believe me, you're not getting out. All right? Those DARPA robots that have these barcode things to direct them to dig through the ice and to find and open those doors. There's nothing outside. You can't live outside. It's going to be like that for centuries, or could be a millennia. Those of you who do not know what I'm talking about, I pity you. So does Henry Kissinger, because he wants to be in that thing, but he'll never be around. It won't happen for another 25 years, according to most. Now, some may say that the title card I put up for this show, that is titled Continuum, might be a pose, but it wasn't a pose. It just was a brutal, honest snapshot. It's like some girl I used to hang out with's mother said when she caught us in the basement. And for some reason, the girl showed her a picture. Oh, it wasn't like she caught us. I mean, but we were in the basement. She came home. We came upstairs. But the girl apparently had showed her a photo of me previously. Previously on Tony Caravan Live, the mother of a girl, and the mother said, "You take a good picture." And yeah, it's, some people are photogenic. And in live, they're not necessarily, as like, and those type of people don't pose. So I'm not a poser. I just used to take a good picture. Now I'm an old bag of bones. Get the shirt. Get into it. Spread the word. This is our thing. Here's what's happening. I'm going to tell you a story today. The story's not going to sit well with many people. The story has little or nothing to do with politics. All right? Or even, even current events for that matter, though it has something to do with current events. A slight pain over here, meaning my heart has the potential for exploding during this show. You do the best you can to survive. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I haven't been eating healthy the past couple of days. Tomorrow I plan on drinking alcohol, that is, and smoking. Quality of life. What's the old saying? I'd rather live a few years less and then have a full, enjoyable life than live a few years more and suffer, due to trying to walk some kind of line, eating health foods or something. You know who said that? I did. I'm paraphrasing myself, And who the heck am I?
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
You bet your sweet Bippy. I have that on there, but I don't particularly like this guy. Doesn't this guy sound like might be an idiot?
You bet your sweet Bippy.
Yeah, I don't like guys like that. Do you like guys like that? Listen to that.
You bet your sweet Bippy.
Yeah. No, buddy. I don't like you. Yeah. This show's more going to be like this.
Attention, people of Earth. I have an important announcement to make.
Okay, so here's the thing. If any of you know what's his face over at Leak Project, what's his name? The guy. Well, anyway, somebody tuned in and tuned out when I said that. What's your problem, man? Why don't you watch a show? Get an education. This is going to be a very interesting show. Well, I put on Leak Project for a little while. It's a YouTube show. And, he had a guest on. And, he's get these guys on. And he has some interesting characters. Like the further away I get from the microphone, the more room type of thing. Excuse me. Remember, I'm allowed to clear my throat, belch, and do any of those kinds of things. But you're not. See, because I'm on YouTube, right? And see, I'm allowed to do that. But you see, you're not because you're not on YouTube. Right? You understand where that's coming from, right?
Okay.
You bet it, baby. Well, it was funny. The guy on there even mentioned, instead of like, of course, they don't have sound effects like I do. But he was mentioning how people consider, these aliens consider us as cows. And I was wondering I was wondering if the dude actually watched my show. Maybe he was the one who came on and came off. Now that's not Leak Project guy. Okay. I mean, I don't want to let's find out who he is. All right. Leak Project. Rex Bear. Okay. Anyway, so we're talking about Rex Bear. So the guy's been doing. He's into the aliens. He's into conspiracy theories. Into all the electronic radiation. In fact, he might have been one of the motivations I got into getting one of these. I forget. One way or the other. This is showing that my computer, we do this all the time, but just think for those who are new to the thing. And yes, if you're hearing a kind of a hally, echoey type of sound, it's intentional. But when I put it over there, it goes off, see? When I turn it here, it picks up. Radiation, electromagnetic radiation. That red light flashing means it's in the harmful level. Harmful level. Repeat, harmful level. All right. Baker Charlie Alpha, harmful level. So you had a guy talking about, and they were getting into all this. The guy, his guest, was rambling on about all these different kinds of alien things, that are here and how they do this, that, the other, right? And how they're involved in, ruling the planet, and the planet was like a park for the ancient ones. I mean, he had some new stuff that I hadn't heard, from the various tales. And I think he was talking about, he wouldn't mention it, but I think he was alluding to MUFON or something, supposedly getting a lot of direct alien reports on direct human to alien contact, face-to-face contacts. Now, whether or not that's true and whether or not it was MUFON he was referring to or not, he was trying to be coy about it. Is coy the right word? Excuse me. We're still in the UK, so I got the old London hat on. For no known reason, no apparent reason. So, electronic tube. Tube. This is what a tube. Do you know what a tube looks like? No. It's like my show yesterday. But the tubes are up there. I didn't, that's just the box for the tube. I have tubes up there. Way up there. Way up there. I'm not going to get them. I already showed them. You got to go back to one of my 120 some shows, 200. I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. The secrets of the universe are in these shows. And yes, I had an alien experience when I was younger. I told that on another show. So, yes, Mulder, I want to believe poster there that's starting to come into view. It's 5:44 a.m. Let's take a look at the weather because I tell you, it's muggy. Now, it's saying it's 72 degrees already. So I had the window open last night. I mean, 72 degrees. That's room temperature. I mean, some people don't even turn their heat up in the wintertime to 72. They keep it at 68 or 70. It was 72 last night. Man, I couldn't really sleep. Yeah, and today's going to be, stuck in a house. And it's supposed to stay in the 70s. That was the beat of something. And there's a 32, 24, 30. It's almost like the Sounds like I'm describing a woman's dimensions. You don't hear that anymore, you know. The shape of a woman. The shape of a woman's body. You know, it would be so cool if you could do effects with these webcams. You know, like I say, I still want to, I don't know why the team, and they have a team and they probably make six figures and they're sitting around and they talk about stuff. But anyway, let's finish this weather first. It's going to be a high of 79 degrees today, chance of thunderstorms, low 66, they're saying. I hope it's 66, but, Wednesday it's going to be low 64. Now, 64 sleeping weather, because that's like, it's cool enough if there's a breeze, and if it's not too humid. But anyway, pretty much all week, there's a chance of thunderstorms that are above 50%. As it gets closer to the weekend, it looks like Friday, it's like 70%, 72 degrees, and 61. So it's cool. This is good tomato growing weather for those of you who have gardens like I do. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Did you ever hear that song? Or how about coconuts and banana? That's a real song. Merv Griffin sang that once on his show. But I think, a lot of that was a hit, in like years. Coconuts and banana. Think about that. And that was like a pop song. Things they used to get away with. Yeah. I don't know.
Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah, I know. It's not really funny. This show's going nowhere. It's flopping. It's actually flopping. All right, let me get back into I was into some other kind of like personality persona or something. It was weird. So I don't want to do that.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
Well, the thing is, I don't know. I just got into this weird character and kind of messed up. Now I'm trying to like get out of it. It's weird. Maybe it has something to do with this echo sound that's not really an echo. So my biofeedback isn't working properly. But I'm curious. This is an experiment. So part of this show is an experiment to see what this sound sounds like. I don't care what it sounds like in my headphones. It's not sounding great in my headphones. But it maybe coming through the processing. But I mean, if this team, I hate, and I don't want to criticize them, because, they have the power to mess with your thing and they do it at will. But even if there were just plugins in Chrome, or if people who were into developers who develop these extensions, because they do have extensions, right? They call them extensions in Chrome, or do they call them something else? Let's see what else. Turn off the lights has access to this site. I see. Well, let me turn off the lights. And all that does is dim the screen. It's interesting. Display on another screen. Me. This page is accessing your camera and microphone. What happens if I click on that? Microphone built-in, camera, FaceTime. Continue allowing Studio to do this. This page is accessing the camera. That's fine. Bookmark this tab. I don't have to worry about that. It's my default screen. All right. So
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I just have to remind you that this is just my show, and sometimes it's just you're spending some time with me, and it takes me a while in the morning to get started. Some caffeine, especially when it's a flow of consciousness type of show like this. So I was talking about humanoids, and I started out like I noticed this Rex Bear and Leak Project. Check out his channel if you haven't already. You know, he gets some interesting stuff. I mean, sometimes it's far out, but, you know, hats off to the guy. He's doing it, you know. He's succeeding. He's making a living at it. Lucky him. I'm demonetized. And nobody's buying my stuff. So anyway, I guess it's just time to start. So the idea is that there's two things confronting. There's three things that we're being confronted with right now. Excuse me while I clear my throat. I hope you didn't hear that. But remember, I'm on YouTube, so I'm allowed to do that kind of thing. But see, you're not on YouTube, so you can't do that kind of thing. You understand? Anyway, there's three things that we need to talk about. And none of this, you know, has to do with like I said, since I don't watch the nightly news or any of that stuff, you know, has nothing to do with any of that. And the electromagnetic radiation, I mean, I wish you could really see this. I mean, maybe if I even turn it around. Is it? Yeah, look at, see that? See the bubbles on there? All right, it's my morning show mug. That's what the electromagnetic radiation is doing to my soda. And I keep putting ice cubes in there. My mustache. Yes, I'm a man of 1,000 faces and voices. There's three things. Let's get back to it. Let's try. So, I had a cherry pie for breakfast today. It was 490 calories. And it was just in this little box. It came in that thing I started talking about earlier. I ordered some junk food yesterday. I just threw in a cherry pie for the hell of it. It's like, it was one of those things like I talk about the soda. Like contained, like no cherry, you know. What is it? And how do you get 490 calories? It's just a bunch of sugar and salt and some kind of weird chemical, you know, these chemistry set flavorings that just make it look and taste, you know, like something. I mean, you know, your daily calorie input, like especially a day like today, if I'm not going anywhere, should only be about probably 1,500 calories. You know, so I just had like, I've got 1,000 calories for the rest of the day. Otherwise, I'll be gaining a few pounds. I'm trying to lose. Vanity. All right, there's three things to consider here that a lot of people aren't considering. Some people are considering some of these things. Okay. One, I'm going to use a phrase, gain of function. That should be the scariest phrase you've ever heard in your life, no matter what age you are. The older, maybe more. It's looking more and more like that phrase could spell curtains, as they say, for maybe half the human race. Gain of function. I need not expound on that because I think the stories that are coming out relating to that are pretty much pointing in a direction, and those of us who can see, we don't need to talk about what. In other words, when they admit a certain thing, then that's opening a door for something beyond that thing. It's the same second one, UFO disclosure, right? By the Pentagon and Navy, etc. And these images they put out. Okay. So they put out something, people take it on face value, but those of us who are in the know that there's something else going on there. Okay? So number one, gain of function, the scariest phrase of our time. UFO disclosure, not so scary, but we'll get into that. Right? And three, the sun, the nova that we've been talking about, that no one is talking about hardly at all, except Ben over it, Suspicious Observers, Doug Vogt, who's got, video after video about his take on it, and some other people. And just to bring into the picture just two other, if we're going to go down this rabbit hole, so to speak. Adapt 2030, David Dubine. You need to watch some of his stuff. And the Electric Universe, the Thunderbolts Project. Okay. Now, just what I've kind of just mentioned there is enough to basically, is what everyone should be focused on right now. These are the issues of the day. It's not politics. It's not anything that's on the news. I mean, yeah, the news is covered, like showing videos of the Navy UFO photos. Okay, that's about it. Forget that. There's nothing on the news. You could just literally cancel your cable or satellite service right now today, because anything you see on there is total diversion or propaganda or nonsense. What I'm about to tell you is what's really going on. Okay? Now, when it comes to gain of function, I got to use an expression that I hate. I've always hated my entire life, but I'm going to say it anyway. Gain of function, enough said. All right? Because I have a pretty good feeling that is kind of verboten. It's like trying to talk about this or this, right? It's, that's one of those cases where terms of service overrule the First Amendment, and why we are now living in the former United States, which is currently a corporatocracy that answers to an international crime syndicate. All right. You didn't know that. That's the reality. Now, who's involved in this organized crime syndicate? And here's where it gets woo-woo for some people. Okay? The fact is, when the Pentagon says, yeah, these photos of these unidentified objects, right? Because now they're trying to backtrack a little bit and say, well, they're not necessarily aliens. We just don't know what they are. Okay. That's that's as bad. That's on the same level of them last year telling people, wash your hands. It's like, what do they take us for? Wash your hands. Well, we don't know what these things are, and they exhibit, properties that defy the known laws of physics and any kind of aircraft that we have ever, even conceived of. But they're not from another planet. Well, where are they from, man? Right? And don't tell me, number one, wash my hands. I've been washing my hands since I was a kid. You take us. See, when I talk about functionally illiterate, the majority of people are functionally illiterate. That was like people coming out of schools. That was an actual report issued. Right? Well, let's see if I can find that one. Because I know there's people that probably don't even just hate when I say that. They think I'm being critical of something. Okay. Functionally illiterate study, maybe. What is considered review about functionally illiteracy? Here's a NIH.gov thing. Let's see what that is. All right. Formerly availability of education. This is from the National Institute of Health.gov. Formally, availability of education for children has increased around the world over the last decades. However, despite having a successful formal educational career, adults can become functional illiterates. Functional illiteracy means that a person cannot use reading, writing, and calculation skills for his/her own and community's development. Functional illiteracy has considerable negative effects not only on personal development, but also in economic and social terms. All right. Now, there's been a lot of backlash on these various tests and stuff, and they're trying to dance around it. It's the same way that Pentagon is trying to dance around this disclosure about UFOs. All right. But the point is, like I say, it's like gain of function. All right. Once they put the phrase out there and once they acknowledge a certain thing, then we know what's going on. Okay. You can fill in the blanks or connect the dots like our old buddy who's no longer on this platform, Mr. Ike, right? Who we should all thank, who was saying all this stuff for 25 years or so. Longer, who knows? All right. They're trying to do it. They're trying to backpedal, they call it. They're trying to backpedal on functional illiteracy too. But in other words, the cat's already out of the bag, which is a horrible phrase for people who have cats. All right. And yes, all this stuff, this electronic gear and all these things, they're causing all kinds of crazy effects on us. Our lifespans are half what they should be. I was trying to explain that in a previous video. It's like people should be living to be about, echo. People should be, you hear that? I got to turn this down just a tad. People should be living to be about, I don't know. Well, I mean, I do know, about 124 years old currently, like genetically. Now, they say that the mortality rate, age of, average age of when people die is like 78. I think it dropped to 77 a year or so ago. But I think they backpedaled on that. There's a road rally going on. It's surprisingly, it's a Tuesday. It usually happens on a Monday. But the idea is it's really around 60 some, when you really think about it. Because they don't really factor in. It's like in the old days. Do you ever hear like people say, and it's a really bigoted remark. I remember a friend I used to have whose like mother was a real bigot against people, not necessarily people of color, of nationality, right? She was like some nationalities think they're better than other nationalities, even so-called, European descents, right? That's that's like missing from the discussion today too. It's like people don't understand. They try to make this a color thing, like, because they're just resurrecting division for division's sake. Like I say, I live in a very integrated neighborhood. I'm a minority in this neighborhood, and we don't seem to have any problems like that. But when I was growing up, there was a lot of bigotry in nationalities, right? And it had nothing to do with peace, because the civil rights movement was over, so no one really cared about. Most people were just colorblind. This is a continuation of yesterday's speech. I'm not going to drag on to this long, but it was something I left out of that because I wasn't thinking of it at the time. But it just like the conversation, flow of consciousness got me there. Well, anyway, this mother of this so-called friend of mine who turned out to be an idiot who ended up, just being, you think you have a friend and they screw you over type of thing, but a long-term friend just use you, and I'm the type of person like that, I am a forgiver, I am a forgiver. Pick up the receiver. I don't know if this echo thing's working out or not. Well, anyway, this old lady, sorry for the use of the phrase, this old bag of bones was a bigoted bitch, okay? And she and her son apparently had that too, though he kind of befriended me because I was his ticket to everything he ended up doing in life. Yeah, it's really weird. There was a show where I never mentioned people's names. I always respect people's privacy, but I get as close to if someone knows who I'm talking about. But basically, the person copied my life. It's like stolen identity. Just they didn't steal my name, but they stole my identity. So everything, everything they did was like, was something stolen from me, right? Used me for opportunistic. So it's just something to consider. I forget what the thing was. Because my mind started drifting back to the idiocy of that went on. But thank God I have lost touch with these people for 25 years, so I don't care anymore. I know what I was talking about. So she was bigoted. I was talking about life expectancy. And so this, in one instance, she had a problem with people who had, I guess, Italian heritage. Okay. She was bigoted against Italians. Okay. This is what I'm trying to say. This is European. So this goes to show, like, a lot of people, like these young people today out there with the protest signs and, all these causes and foundations and getting all these donations, and they're buying $1 million houses and not doing anything and pretending there's some kind of color like thing going on. No, that's not the real bigotry in the bigotry. The most bigoted people are usually of the same pigmentation. People don't know that because they're blind to the media, and the education system is trying to divide them, based on pigment. It's not telling what true bigotry is, right? It's like supremacy, Like I was watching a little bit of the Apple WWDC type of thing. And like this Tim Cook guy comes out. This was yesterday. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I was just curious to see, what they're doing. And it's like everything's revolving around the iPhone. Like, man, enough with these things. Replace it. Somebody needs to come up with a new thing, right? It's like, like I say, it's like Facebook and these things. It's enough with these. These are fads, passing fancies. Every other decade, things around for about 10 years or so, and somebody comes up with something better. And they just keep putting the stuff into this thing, right? Because it's easy. And guys like Steve Jobs aren't around anymore who can innovate and say, oh, one more thing. And here's this new device, or there's this new thing. But Apple, it's like all they were doing is like creating like all new ways of texting and FaceTiming and all this stuff. But here's the kicker about these like real freaks like at Apple. So Tim Cook, he's a CEO, a white guy. All right. I mean, he's gay, but so what? He's white. All right. That doesn't like make suddenly, put you in good with like, so that doesn't get you anything just because you like a particular sexual thing. Okay. So he was like, his introduction was like, was his idea. They were trying to bring more, this is about developers, try to make more diversity involved in their development. In other words, bringing more diverse people. And they got, and they put a stock photo up of a couple of people, mostly people of color, like every, kind of, the classic thing. Here's a black, brown, Asian, Indian, not American Indian, but, Indian type of thing. And it's like, yeah, we got to get this grouping in. And the first four speakers, I believe, were all white people. It was like Tim Cook, and then that guy with the big eyebrows. And then there were two different women developers. They were all 2 white women and 2 white men. Okay? But see, they're talking about diversity, right? And we're going to bring more people in. But here's the company. And see, here's how where people are so whacked out, like, and so functionally illiterate, because they don't see the forest for the trees. So the show isn't going to be about this. I'll be through this in a second. When I get back to age and all that other stuff. But it has to do with this thing. What I'm trying to tell you is that these people, like, when you look at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and this Klaus guy, or even that Greta, how dare you, right? Or Al Gore's, or the Dementia Joe, or the Clintons, or anybody, or even, the cult of personality, Orange Man, right? Orange Man Bet. I mean, these are all white people, right? And most of the news anchors, you have a few people, on CNN, but CNN gets like less than 1/3 of 1% of the U.S. population's even watching CNN. CNN is an urban legend kind of thing, if you think about it. Literally. I mean, it gets like quoted in memes, or a snapshot, screen capture of a of a TV thing, and then it gets, retweeted or whatever, posted around. But it's actually, it's like an urban legend. It's like CNN was created back in the early 80s, Ted Turner and all that stuff. And they used to have real headline news, and it used to repeat the news. So you could just turn on CNN whenever you wanted to, and you'd know if there was an earthquake here. You'd know what was going on here. You'd know the status of some Middle Eastern conflict or whatever was going on, and they would repeat it. It was like that station in Philadelphia. You give us 10 minutes and we'll give you the world, or something like that used to be their thing. I think it was like, KYW News or something. I don't know. I think that's where they were. Could have been Pittsburgh, Philly. I don't know. But that's what it used to be like. But now it's just like an urban legend. Everybody thinks it's it, but nobody watches it, because according to the official ratings, which I put up, the other day we went through them, their viewership is the lowest of all networks. Cable networks. It's like less than 1/3 of 1% of Americans. That means 99 point 99.3% or whatever. So more than, on average, more than 99.3%. And definitely 99 plus % of the American people don't watch CNN. And it's like, and for Fox and like MSNBC and the network, it's not much better. It might be 99% or 98% of people don't watch, do not watch, have not watched. Okay. Well, anyway, so all these people, predominantly, these people pushing these divisive issues based upon color, it's really a facade, and it's fake. It's just not real, because it's not real. See, as I was trying to tell you, when they say things, you have to like look at it firsthand and say, well, where's an instance of it around me? And I'm going, well, I don't know. The guy up the street, is black. The guys living in the house 2 doors down are black, right? When I walk to the grocery store, those are all black people. The checkout girl at the grocery store is black. So where's these? Where's all these? Right? So and everybody's like, hey, hi, how you doing? Good morning. Right? So I don't see it. And I live in, like I say, I'm living below the poverty line, in basically, because my house is cheap, that's the type of neighborhood you live in. Okay. Everybody's nice, basically. So I don't see any of that stuff. What I see hypocrites like Apple saying, oh, we're going to have diversity in development. And I watched the first 4 big wigs, they're all making 7 figures or more. Tim Cook's probably making 8 figures, right? Apple. 8 figures, right? Double-digit millions, all right? And I watched the first 4 of these people coming out, and they're all frickin' white. And it was like this mother of this ex-friend of mine who was bigoted against, and her thing was, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is a long way of getting into it. I didn't want to waste the whole show on this because I want to get into the alien thing. It's what we really want to talk about. But this is part of it, because these are all the diversions they force in front of people. And it's a flow of consciousness. So what can I do? They used to say, oh, those Romans, this woman, because I guess she was something prejudicial against certain nationalities, Mediterranean type of people who may have been handsome or, popular or athletic, right? Or football stars or something like that. And their excuse was there was some report on like CBS News that said, these Roman soldiers, gladiators and whatnot weren't exactly, a lot of them had broken bones and stuff. So they weren't really the picture of, like the idea of the Greek statue or the Roman statue of these, perfect, perfect body type of, human, form, sculpture form. And it was like the guy was like somehow repeated this thing in a sense. And it was like with this sense of pride of saying like, yeah, see. And I had to laugh because, this guy used to think he was smart or something. And I was thinking this gets back to functional illiteracy. And my first thought was first of all, I didn't really care. But my thought was like, you're functionally illiterate, man. What is having, a gladiator or some sort of soldier having broken bones and cuts or scars on them have to do with the fact that they were better looking than you? All right. When you go to war and you go to battle, when you're in a fight, you can get beaten up. That doesn't mean that you weren't basically, had a more athletic body and better looks, right? I go like, what an idiotic, bigoted statement. But that was that was the way they looked at it. But to carry this on, and there's a purpose behind this madness. This has to do with life expectancy, and we'll get into the alien thing. So they used to say that, people back then, the life expectancy was only 30 some years or something. And they try, you hear this from time to time, and how life expectancy has grown. This is another one of those head games they play on with people. All right. Well, that's bullshit. Okay. They're basing their life expectancy on the fact that there were these people. First of all, there was less of people on the planet during those times. Okay. Population has exploded over the past couple thousand years. Right? Exploded. I mean, in the United States alone, there's 100 million more people now than there were in the 1970s. 100 million more. Okay. All right. There's nearly 8 billion people on the planet. And the reason people life expectancy, so to speak, was shorter back in the days of, say, the Roman Empire or something, right? Because there were wars and people were dying in wars, and you had a low population, and they had these, and there was constant battling. And there was also certain diseases that we didn't have cures for, so that, you didn't have like penicillin developed until the 20th century, for example. All right. And so I used to laugh, and I laugh at this. And so what most people don't know is that the biggest bigots are within their own so-called color groupings. And that applies to black, brown, red, yellow, white, and green. Okay? Because that's how absurd this stupid thing is. All right? Because most people over the age, like I was talking about yesterday, over the age of a certain age, realize we're cognizant and live through the civil rights movement and all that stuff, and they're for the most part, are colorblind to any of this nonsense. Absurd. So life expectancy has gone down over the millennia. This hasn't, it's like these people weren't, there were very, very old people thousands of years ago. There were centenarians. All right. And I argue that there were people that were living to be hundreds of years old. All right. So what's happened is that life expectancy is being reduced now. And we have so many people. It's not because of wars. And it's not even because of, things like heart attacks that kill 650,000 people a year, or cancer that kills 600,000 people a year, that kind of stuff. And certainly not this thing, the unspeakable thing you can't talk about. I mean, that's done nothing. That's nothing compared to, the deaths of heart disease and diabetes, cancer and all the other things that kill people. It's just an illusion. It's the glamour they put across people's face. So anyway, this guy was trying to tell you that there's these, like, he wasn't calling them hybrids. He was calling them like some kind of human things, like, and how that they can extend people's lives indefinitely, but that they would take them back. The process took them back to a, like almost their late teens, or, where early, he didn't specifically make a thing like when, I don't know, the guy was like kind of vague. He's one of those guys that just, he kept putting his foot in his mouth, I felt. So you didn't want to, he would say some things that sounded very interesting, but other things that just didn't seem to make, like, they kind of contradicted or made you think it was like kind of crazy. So I was just about to look up, had to do it. Was it life expectancy? Oh no. Age when people stop growing. Even with a healthy diet, most people's height won't increase after age 18 to 20. The graph below is blah, 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 blah. Do guys grow until 25? Here's a question. See. Healthline. At 21, you can legal. Research has found that the brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. Men usually achieve peak muscle mass somewhere between 20 and 30. Okay, so what this guy was saying, and that may have caused some kind of weird thing because I had some spinning thing going on here. What this guy was trying to say is that these alien tech has the ability to take you back to that 20-ish, 20-something age, all right, and kind of freeze you there. But what happens is, while you could have extremely long life, we're talking on the magnitude of 1,000 years or more, and that these reptilians, like David Eichmann was trying to tell us for years, these people, these beings, have like 20,000, 30,000 year lifespans. All right, which kind of goes along with like the Sumerian list of kings and some of this other stuff. I know this is like out there for a lot of people, but anyway, so I guess what he was trying to say is that, so if you would be somehow, I don't know, injected, with something. There's been some studies. I was following this woman. I don't know. She vanished. It's like on YouTube, there's a lot of people that just disappear. And, you have them like, it's not bookmarking, but you subscribe to them. So you kind of forget, you can't remember everybody's name, I mean, the whole idea of this computer is that you're hoping that you're using. That's why I say I keep for my growing thing, I keep a physical grow book, a record. So, because you can't trust, this is weird. You can't trust technology. I mean, the cloud services, they could discontinue. Your computer could no longer, there's certain, I have, like this computer over here won't run certain programs. So you could be storing all this data and forget about, it's in the cloud. It's in the cloud. Yeah, but what happens if your computer is no longer capable of running the latest operating system like mine? I'm on whatever it is right now because they have names for them all. I'm on Catalina and they're like on Big Sur. And it's like on my iPhone, I have like 12 point something, but they're up to 13, 14. Like I think they were showing on that thing with all the white guys, so to speak. They were trying to talk about diversity, but like all the first 4 speakers, the highest paid people at Apple were all white people. And they're talking about diversity. I mean, it's just like functional illiteracy. Look, you can't see the forest for the trees. These people are messing with you, man. They speak something, they get all people riled up. But the fact of the matter is the CEO of Apple's a white guy. And his like lieutenant, so to speak, is a white guy. And these girls in charge of all these other things, these women, whatever you want to, are white people, right? And they're trying to talk about diversity. It's ridiculous. But they were talking about in this development like system 15. Well, my phone won't even take 13. Okay. So so am I going to rely on that technology to store data that I want to refer to a year from now or 2 years from now? Well, what if I can't afford to buy a new iPhone? Right? Or I can't afford, I told you, this is a $2,000 computer setup. The computer over here, which is 15 years old, was $2,000. It's funny, I mean, with inflation, they would probably say that thing is $4,000. And if you really wanted a computer, a Mac computer anyway, you could spend $5-10 grand if you're really into using it for production, not just silly stuff. And I have many friends who have PCs, laptops, and stuff like that, and they just don't compare, and they don't have the quality and the reliability, and the file management systems on them suck. I mean, unless you really buy high-end gear. And the fact is, it's like, to bring in my mom, but, she had a computer which she ended up just, throwing away. It literally came up on the screen. It was when she had Windows 7. It was a Windows 7 machine, right? And it literally said, you need to upgrade. You need to get a new computer. She was getting a notification. You need a new computer. It was actually like putting that up when she would try to do certain things, because System 10 or Windows 10 or whatever it was at the time, I don't remember the exact details, would not run on that computer, and they were switching all their software. You needed Windows 10 in order to use the current software. And it's the same with Apple, and it's the same with all these things. I have programs that I paid money for, right? Apps and things that won't operate on my computer now because it says you need, Big Sur, you need to upgrade to whatever. That's craziness, man. But that's a reality. So, and so that has this tie into functional literacy, aliens, and all this stuff. So let's just complete all these thoughts so we can go forward. 1, life expectancy has dropped. It hasn't gone up. All right. We're living around half. Real life expectancy in the US is probably in the 60s. All right. When you really factor in things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and all these other killers. And then, of course, remember, there's suicides. There's 6 million car crashes a year and tens of thousands of people dying every year from that. I mean, when you go down the list on the CDC's causes of death, which we've done on this show many times, I've even plugged it up on this monitor so you could see it and close and, and I gave you a close up on it. Official CDC.gov, just like I went to the NIH to show you the functional literacy term. It's not something I made up. I'm not making fun of people. This is what they're talking about. This is part of that indoctrination nanny state. They created these functionally illiterate people because they don't want smart people, because smart people will look at things like that Apple thing and go like, hey, wait a second. What are you guys talking about? You're all white, right? Or they'll look at, this, gain of function thing and go, hey, wait a second. You lied to us for over a year, right? See, they don't want people who would do that, like what I'm saying. Now you're coming out and saying it. Or it's like the UFOs thing, right? Where they're saying, oh, yeah, these defy the law of physics, whatever, but we're not saying they're aliens. Well, what are you saying? It's like, wash your hands. It's like they've got people like we're functionally illiterate. And those of us who aren't functionally illiterate are just looking at them and going like, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. With the gain of function thing, you should cry. I think they're planning to get rid of half the population. At least. With the next one. We have no idea. I mean, that admission, what's come out now, and it's totally public. It's all over. All right. In the media now. They're not going to be, good luck backpedaling on that. They did that. Okay. What else did they do? And why have some of them come out and said already in the past, before this, revelation, that the next one is going to really be bad? Because they known all along what this is. And that's their plan. So that is one of the scariest things of our time, because that's an immediate scary thing. They're planning to take people out. I honestly believe that. So it's like, my advice is get super immune, system. Get your immune system supercharged. All right. Because, you got to fight it. And I don't trust, like as I say, how could you trust people that lie for a living? It's like the FDA. Like I say all the time, every 2 years, TV, they advertise a drug approved by the FDA. And then 2 years later or a year later, there's a law firm ad on the same TV channel that put this commercial for this drug on. And they're telling you, if you use this drug, contact the law firm of such and such, and you'll get a settlement because it caused death or very bad side effects. So these people lie for a living, and it's proven to them. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, all you have to do is turn on your TV set. I don't have one anymore. Well, I've got TV set, but on mine is YouTube and different app things. But, I'm not making this up. You know that. Everyone's seen those commercials. It's your money. Well, what do you think those structured settlements are for? Those are for lawsuits. Some of them are for lottery winners, but most of them are for lawsuits. A few of them might be for somebody who is like, a trust fund baby, but most of them are for lawsuits, structured settlements. And a lot of them are pharmaceutical things approved by the FDA, advertised on the corporate media, and now they're telling you that these things are bad for you. Right? See, I always go right to the source. Okay? So I read you functional illiteracy is a term used by the NIH. All right? You know, when I say causes of death, I took that from the cdc.gov site. Okay? I'm going to the, proverbial horse's mouth on this stuff. But what I'm telling you is that we're all being bamboozled. And most people, because they are functionally illiterate, are just like looking at this stuff. They're listening to the words coming out of people's mouths, but they're not looking at them. They're not looking at what's really going on. Excuse me. So yeah, you got to be afraid of that. You got to really be afraid of that. This gain of function thing. They're up to something. And they're putting it out there. See, they do that every now and then. See, they put it out so they can get it out to their people. It's like an alert. It's like what they try to use it in the other words, like it's a dog whistle. You see, they're alerting these, several thousand people who are ruling over the planet, right? The Davos set. They don't care about the rest of us, the other 8 billion people. They want to cut that in half, or who knows, maybe more. But it's pretty clear now, like I questioned right from the beginning, how the heck did this, when we were all under lockdown, how did it get to 190 countries, like instantly? Like nobody seemed to even bring that up. A lot of those countries are isolated, really isolated, islands. They're like islands in the South Pacific or, weird places. I mean, it's like, how did it get there? Right. Countries, in the middle of the African continent, isolated communities, nation state type places, right? How did it get to all these places? What did they put it in? That's the thing. That was the thing I was telling people. I'd say, what'd they put it in? In water, in bottled water? Were they putting it in, some kind of thing, baby formula? I mean, what the heck were they doing? Is it cereal? Soft drinks, maybe. Who knows? 192 countries or something in, a couple of weeks. I mean, wait. I don't care how catchy a thing is. If a place is isolated, you can't, how did you disseminate it? Was it disseminated through the aerosol? Right? Gain of function. And the NIH funded it. Yeah, be very afraid of that. Okay. Enough said about that. Like I say, I hate that phrase, enough said, but enough said about that. Be very afraid, number one. Be very afraid, and you need to do your research or watch one of my earlier programs where I talked about catastrophism, right? Like I say, watch Ben Davidson's stuff on Suspicious Observers or Doug Vogt stuff. Doug Vogt will give you his take on it. The guy's written a lot of books. This Die-Hold Foundation, it's called. And it's a different thing because those guys have some disagreements. With Vogt, it's like a full out nova. With Davidson, it's like a micronova. But I mean, the concept, And with other people, there's other catastrophism things, but everybody's talking about the 12,000 year cycle, and that 12,000 year cycle is now. And the Earth magnetic field is weakening. All right. And we're seeing effects not just on the Earth, but the other planets throughout the solar system and on the sun, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's looking very likely that there are so many things converging that are proving that this 12,000 year cycle is what it's all about. That, and it's a near extinction event in the past. It could be a total extinction event now. But everything's pointing to that 12,000 year cycle, and we are now at that time. Okay. So that's number 2 that you got to worry about. So, yeah, life is pretty crazy, and we're teetering on the brink. And then this is like, this general UFO thing. And this alien thing. It's just really suspect, I mean, some of their admissions, they've basically come out and said that they've lied for the past 70 some plus years. Okay. That they haven't backpedaled on. All right. By admitting that they've been, filming these things and studying these things, they basically, have basically openly admitted they lied to say that, they weren't. Right. So it's like everything else. You can't trust the FDA because there are too many lawsuits on TV, right now that show that they approve drugs that actually lawyers have won cases in courts against. All right. So that that's not a reputable agency. We know most of the alphabet agencies, the so-called spy agencies, well, we know they lie for a living. All right. And that's been proven time and time again. And with the more declassified and FOIA documents that come out, even though many of them are very redacted, the memorandums, the tos and froms and subject matters and words within them basically prove lies. Okay. So we know, we pretty much know it, and it's the same with, like I say, with the way big tech operates and why this country's a corporatocracy. Like, we know that this is not the United States anymore because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are not being defended, are not being adhered to. The corporatocracy has created its own constitution. It's called terms of service. And terms of service have superseded the Bill of Rights. Now, you have to be functionally illiterate not to have seen that. And it doesn't matter. Nobody in Congress is owned by the corporatocracy. The White House is owned by the corporatocracy. And yes, even the Supreme Court and all the lower courts are owned by the corporatocracy because they're all allowing this to happen. I mean, there are judges in small communities or in certain cities and stuff when it comes down to crime. It's the same with like the FBI and stuff like that. Yeah, they're going after serial killers and people like that. It's not as if there aren't people out there doing their job, all right, in certain areas. But in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, the country has become a corporatocracy. It's not a government. It's not a republic anymore. All right. It's not of the people, for the people, by the people type of thing. All right. It's a corporatocracy. And all the governments have become corporatocracies now, especially in former Western civilization. This is the former United States. It's a corporatocracy. Western civilization has collapsed. And all those other former countries are now corporatocracies. And the corporatocracies all answer to the Davos set, the World Economic Forum. It's involved in the Great Reset. And those people, that is an organized crime syndicate. And the kicker is, from what we've been told so far, what they're leaking out from the government, it's looking more and more like there's alien involvement at the highest levels of this organized crime syndicate. I mean, it's crazy. It's wacko. It's wackadoodle. Yeah. What I'm saying sounds crazy, but it's not. You know, you know, to a functionally illiterate person, you're like, you know, brainwashed, indoctrinated, conditioned through the education system, the nanny state. You know, you're in denial and you're like, oh, I don't know. But no, if you look at it, if you listen to what they're saying, it's pretty clear. So that's the third thing, you know. Now, there are some people that believe that this alien, you know, groups, you know, are not going to allow the World Economic Forum to get away with the Great Reset. And the Great Reset, again, is like a dog whistle, basically to depopulate, you know, the planet. And make no mistake about it, no matter what you hear from these people, this planet can support 5 times as many people as we have right now. Literally. Maybe even more than that. All right? Everywhere you look, you know, there's plenty. We could produce food. I mean, this is why they're trying to squeeze out and blame CO2, 0.004% CO2, like as if this is some evil thing, because it's CO2 that greens the planet and that allows crops to grow. Now, I know, because you can't imagine my yard. It's just like a green paradise. I got apple trees, I got grapevines, I got blackberry bushes, tomatoes, peppers. I've got bushes of herbs like oregano and things like that. You know, squashes, potatoes, carrots. I mean, I just harvested a ridiculous amount of radishes. I have so much lettuce. I talked about this yesterday. I don't know what to do with it. I've given some away. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, piles and piles. The lettuce is growing like crazy, and it's a rainy week. I mean, you just can't. Sorry about that. That messes up the broadcast too. The email just pops up on its own. It's a new thing now. All right. No reason, no rhyme. So growth, you know, we could produce food to feed 50 million people. And when you like a guy like me who's clocked in hundreds of thousands of sky miles, flown, you know, circumnavigated the globe, been over both oceans, been almost in most states, most contiguous states in the U.S. All you see is land. All you see is land. The U.S. alone has got so much space. You know, when people build houses, you know, I hear about, if you follow the economics of it too, because you have to understand socio-economic geopolitics. Okay, that's what the people in charge. That's the thing that they basically deal with. Socioeconomic geopolitics. That's what decisions are made on. Okay. But when you look at when you look at like a country, even like the US, and you hear, if you follow financial networks, like you watch Bloomberg or, CNBC, not CN, yes, is it CNBC, the financial, or Fox Business? Everybody has their business station, where they just stock market thing type of, and they often talk about housing starts. There's like these economic indicators that they base on the strength of the economy, and one of them is housing starts and things like that. Well, the point is, I always laugh at that, but it's not funny. Is that even in my neighborhood, there are so many empty houses. And like my house required some, I wouldn't call it's kind of a fixer-upper now. I got to deal with a roof thing. I talk about that from time to time. But I mean, that's about it. Otherwise, it was ready to go. I moved in the first couple of years. I had no problems whatsoever. Now I have to deal with the roof. But I mean, there's these other houses all over the place, and some of them I have new roofs on them. But that's not it. The point is, they're not even so-called, they're like minor fixer-uppers, meaning all you really need is to get some paint and, sandpaper, paint, hammer, and maybe just patch a few things here and there. All right. All over America. You look at some downtowns, they're just empty. And above all those places are like places to live, apartments, because left over from the old mom pop days, right? There are so many living spaces in the US alone. I mean, I would estimate there's probably 1 million, or more, maybe millions. If you take in 10,000, 12,000, I don't know how many cities. Let's see if we can find that stat here. Because I always like to, I don't want to just talk out of my arse. All right. How many cities are in the U.S.? Now, city is a weird word because there's also boroughs. As of 2018, there are 19,495 incorporated cities. Only 10 have populations above 1 million. 310 cities. These are incorporated cities. So there's like close to 20,000 cities. That means it's literally a city. However, the last place I lived, which had a population of like 16,000 and there was a college nearby, that was a borough. So it wasn't an incorporated city. And then you have like townships, and then you have people living, right? So we're talking about tens of thousands of cities, so to speak, cities, boroughs, towns, villages, kind of, right? So just think about it. And, the smaller those, places are, these boroughs or whatever, the more available space there is, and empty buildings and storefronts and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, and then there's all this land. And so we don't need housing starts. And that always annoyed me, It's like, just start filling up all these spaces and then bring back community. But they don't want that. They want to control. They want control over it. It's probably another reason why the price of lumber's gone up. They don't really tell you that. Apart from that, apparently that they're stockpiling it to raise the price. But it's this idea of housing starts. These guys building these stick buildings, right, with 2x4s, 2x4 framed buildings. We don't need that. We've got millions of buildings, apartments, and stores that are already here, and all they need is some spackle, mud and tape and some paint, a little bit of elbow grease, right? Fixer uppers, right? It's crazy when you think about it. So they're up to something. They're up to a lot of things, and it's pointing more and more that it's not good for the average person. And that's why I repeatedly say in all my videos that, the pursuit of happiness was probably one of the greatest things, that the founding fathers ever put down on paper. And that's what you really have to do is pursue happiness. And they're up to something. They're up to a lot of different things. It's like in any kind of business, you always have a good business person, a good company, a corporation. They always have contingency plans. And they have, and like in the military, they have contingencies for contingencies. You see, redundancies and contingencies. These are terms the average person's not aware of, right? If this system fails, we have a redundancy here. If this operation goes south, we have a contingency plan. Okay? And then there's a contingency for that contingency in case that doesn't work out. Remember, the people who meet at Davos, the so-called rulers of the world, because that's what they are, the ruling elite, that's what they consider themselves. And they are. The World Economic Forum, that's what they do. They get together and they map out what they're going to do in the coming year and years. They're the rulers of the planet. They're ruling over 8 billion people. And they have contingencies and over contingencies. So what you have to do is understand that they have multiple ways that they are planning to depopulate this planet, to control people in better ways. Part of what I was seeing on that Apple thing, the developers conference, apart from, the hypocrisy of of all these people talking about diversity, but the first 4 people were all white. Apart from all that's almost laughable, but it's pathetically laughable. You should see they're introducing something they call intelligence to to all their apps, and what they call the APIs available to the developers to add them to their apps, so that this thing can track everything. And then they always say, of course, it will be, there will be security and privacy, blah, blah, blah. But it's not true, because within the groups that are using these apps, none of that exists. So what? It's not available to some outside source. That doesn't matter. It's called infiltration. If someone infiltrates your group, then that has nothing to do with external security. And intelligence, they're throwing it in your face. What do they call the spy agencies? Intelligence agencies. The intelligence community. And so that's instead of using AI now, right? They're just coming out with intelligence. That's what they're calling it. It's not artificial intelligence. They're calling it intelligence. It's very interesting how all this is merging. And they've got everybody just totally like oblivious to it. It's in their face, but they can't see the forest for the trees. And people just are still obsessed with the device that, I don't know, just needs to go away, right? Just needs to go away. You know, it's a fad. It's over. It's time to put the pet rock down, the Beanie Baby, right? You know, new fad, something for new fashion. It's like the pop music, I say, music of the day. It's time for something different. All right, it's been the same kind of music now for like 20 years. All right, let's do something different, right? In the past, that's the way it was. You know, I've talked about this before. Every decade, you'd go from 3 different styles of music. Same old music for the past 20 some years. It's like time for people. In other words, they've got people frozen into like really, they're really messing with people's brains. They got you locked into like as if, you know, Facebook forever, Twitter forever, the smartphone forever. They're passing fancies. Move on to something else, right? Right? Rap music forever. Well, no. You had folk music, you had rock and roll, you had hard rock, you had hair metal, you had R&B, you had soul, you know, you had punk rock, you had Seattle sound, the alternative, right? Crooners, right? Easy listening, big band sounds, jazz. Okay? You know, it kept changing. You know, things come to the forefront. Doesn't mean you get rid of whatever. You know, if you like a particular thing, I still go back to certain things. But the point is, we need a new pop. You know, it's time for throw away this music. We need a new thing. The iPhone. We need Steve Jobs to say, "Oh, and one more thing." We're, you know, and not just add intelligence to these apps and like better icons and different things and better integration of this smartphone, you know, smartphone forever, Facebook forever, Twitter forever, rap forever, right? Divisiveness forever, news media. I mean, people were talking in the 90s that basically like television was cable TV was dead, the internet replaced it. What's it still doing around? You know, 99% of the people aren't watching it according to the ratings. You know, just end it. It's like everyone's in this like loop. That's what this is. That's why I'm saying there's alien involvement in this. You know, I know that's going to turn off people, but I don't care. Nobody watches anyway, so it doesn't bother me. You're caught in a loop, you know, some kind of weird time loop, right? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know, and that's what I mean. You know, the title of this, The Continuum. You know, this is really screwed up what's going on right now. It's really screwed up. It defies logic. All right. It defies the laws of physics as we know them. There's something afoot, as Sherlock Holmes would say. And whatever it is, it's not good for the 8 billion people on this planet. And most people are so functionally illiterate due to being raised by the nanny state, indoctrinated, conditioned, and now propagandized by a media. And when I say media, I mean social media too, as well as the corporate media. They're up to things. And these things are not going to, fare well for us. So open your eyes to that, number one. And there's nothing you can do about it, okay? That's the other thing. Remember, the things you can do is basically pursue happiness and to decouple yourself, right, from the corporatocracy. See, first, you have to be aware of what the threats are, okay? You know, it's like you can't be like a child. You put your hands over your eyes and think, oh, you can't see me. That's what people are doing right now. They're like a kid. a baby, put their hands over their eyes and they think you can't, because they can't see you. You can't, no one can see them. They're hiding from you. And it's like, I could see you, you got your hands over your eyes, kid. Right? Wash your hands. You know what I mean? They got people so dumbed down. Like, how insulting. Wash my hands. Yeah. How dare you? I mean, everything that's coming out of the corporate media and the corporatocracy would be laughable if it wasn't really causing people harm. So you need to know that these things are going on. You really do. But that doesn't mean there's anything we can do about it. These people they're in charge now, Excuse me. There's not going to be no election. There's not going to be any cult of personality or any of this things that's going to like save you. You're going to change that. They are all powerful. They are the rulers of the planet. All right. And you have allowed them to get this powerful. This is the former United States. Okay. It doesn't exist anymore as a democratic republic. All right. The Constitution has been trampled on, and you're not going to like drain the swamp. Everyone who's ever tried to even come close to that stuff got totally basically toppled. In the early days, guys like Kennedy and stuff, they just offed them. In the current day, they just, do whatever they can to just push them out of the way. The corporatocracy has the media, as their voice piece, and they've got social media controlling the flow of information. If wrong speak is punishable by banishment. This is the way it is. So understand that there's nothing you can do about that. So what you have to do is pull yourself as much away, detach yourself from them as best as possible. And that means scaling down your life. All right. That's number one, becoming less dependent on them and trying to live as independent and free as possible. Right. In some cases, there's certain areas that are freer than others, like there's freedom zones. People don't even realize that. You move to the outskirts of towns or certain communities or certain parts of the country, they're more freer than others. And if you have the opportunity or the ability to do that, I highly recommend you do it. I did it. And the next thing you have to do is you have to reduce your cost of living, because that helps you become less dependent upon them. And realize that you could have a good quality of life. You can pursue happiness. You can have a good quality of life. You don't need all these things. Don't allow yourself to be brainwashed, because that's what it is, really, when it comes down to it. But they're up to a lot of different things. They have contingencies on contingencies. And the things I mentioned earlier on are part of what they're doing. But who knows what else they've got up their sleeve? Who knows what else? I mean, so, just take care. Stay healthy. Make a concerted effort to be healthy, to boost your immune system, because they've got things coming down the pike, I think. All right? Gain of function. Beware. All right? So, but that doesn't mean you can't live out a full life and pursue happiness. But what they're doing with these devices and what they're doing with all this stuff, don't fall into that trap. Just don't let it happen. They're really out to get us all. They're really out to get us all. You know, there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide in one regard. Like I say, when that thing went to 190 some countries, I go like, hey man, they've got ways of doing things that are way beyond our comprehension. But be strong, healthy, you know, under the radar, but still live a decent quality of life. I said, you know, I live cheap. I live basically under the below the poverty line, but I still have everything I need, almost. But yeah, it's possible. And you know, that's all I can say. You know, it's like well, it's a flow of consciousness show. And by the way, you know, get the iconic shirt, get the mugs, get the great solar stuff, right? Cats talking. And you know, we'll do this again.
Good morning.
We'll do this again. So until then, thanks for watching. Those of you watching this in the future, I got 0 viewers right now. Not even the algorithm is on. Anyway, take care. I hope there's a little bit of something that came out of this for you. That's why I do these things. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers. Peace.